Hello and welcome to the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Championship live on Apex Racing TV and live on the iRacing Esports Network. My name is Sam Fitzpatrick and alongside me tonight is Daniel Leet with Scott Newton on the cameras, and we're here at the glorious Silverstone GP circuit, Daniel, for this round of the season, and it should be another fantastic 45 minutes of action.
Yeah, thank you, Sam, and all the viewers tuning in. Great to have you on board again. Also, look, mate, we're in for another great race. We've been here quite a few times now over the past couple of seasons, and the racing has always been fantastic. 45 minutes, similar to what we saw last week at Barcelona, which provided some very exciting races and an opportunity here for our first three-peat winner in the championship for season 11.
Absolutely, could definitely see that a little bit later on. So keep an eye out on all the drivers. So much to care about as well in the championship. Of course, 4 different championships going on. A little bit more on that later on because we are very soon going to be going to the grid. So the drivers have already taken part in qualifying. Plenty of drivers, as we always see in this championship, qualifying, and they have to do pre-qualifying just to get into this top split of this meeting. Which is the one that we are broadcasting, and so the quality of drivers in this race are going to be mega high, and we'll soon advance from this 10-minute practice session into the 45-minute race. As seems as though we can now bring you up your grid, short pace up, of course, round this circuit. So it's going to be Craig Edwards then on pole position, with Anthony Winkleman alongside him on the front row of the grid, going for 3 wins in a row. Then it's Luke Pink, so really good qualifying for the amateur driver. Josh Thomas is top of the pro drivers. The ones in the purple are the elite drivers, of course. Then it's Danny Davison, Adam Gardner, Leigh Vandenberg, Kane Ryder, Chris Robinson, Darren Lobb, Nathan Huppertz, Ross Rizzo starting in 12th. Then it's Aaron Specchio, Aidan Luthwaite, Trent Thomas, Jordan Cullis, Julian Cleese-Busink, Matt Morris, Andrew Dyson, Steve Janssen, Richard Hunter, Braden Nash, Martin Crisp, Billy Fletcher, Chris Pellett, Josh Burden, Martin Silvassi, Damon Mulqueen, John Stevens, Matthew Barron, Blake Delaney, Stephen McCartan, Sam Holden, Brett Hender, Jesse Butler, Adrian Block, Mitchell Bales, Nick Sanfilippo, Paul Wood, Ryan Colstar, of course, will be doing the admin along with a couple of the other drivers near the back of the grid, which is going through for you now. Tricky couple of corners, and you can see it's pretty dark as well. How do you reckon that's going to affect the drivers today, Daniel?
Look, the light's going to help them, if anything. Maybe save the tyres. The grip's going to stay with these cars. They're going to be able to perform very similar to what we saw last week at Barcelona. It was a night race there also. So it's probably going to help these guys a lot. Obviously, we've done 90 minutes, now the 45 here. I think strategy is going to be really interesting for these guys also to see which way they want to play it as well. I'd expect we're going to see a lot of late strategies here.
So here we go then. Start of the race, Craig Edwards from the pole position, already into single file. The vast majority of the drivers, no changes in the top 12 so far. A little bit of side by side with one of the 4 GT drivers. Luthwaite's got past Specchio. That's pretty much it. Everyone going so far all day, and we've got a spin around. That is down Lob from, I think, about 10th place on the grid, and he has gone a long way off going on to the entry of turn 3. It's a real shame for Lob in his prior. I think we also may have seen another spin with a collision between one of the 4 GT runners. Oh, and now we've got a BMW round as well. Nathan Huppertz, that was, former champion of this series, and he's gone spinning around. So plenty of mistakes on these cool tyres, and that could well be something to do with this track temperature being so cool.
Yeah, it will help hurt them a little bit. Obviously, we did see some change of balance performance last week to bring the tyre pressure up a little bit to help for the first lap jitters. But it will be a little bit tricky as these guys settle into it. Looks like everyone else, though, back underway, and our top 10 now starting to get a little bit of a break.
No changes in the top 9 drivers so far. So yeah, they're getting a break whilst they're not squabbling. Although you can see that Craig Edwards hasn't built up the lead that he would have wanted to build in the first half of this opening lap, and there are plenty of opportunities to overtake around this Silverstone circuit. Ross Rizzo's up a couple of places, Trent Thomas is up 4, Cullis up 4, Andrew Dyson up 6, Braden Nash up 7 at the moment. Of course, got a couple of podiums earlier on in the season. Chris Pellet is now dropping down the orders. He's had an issue through Maggots and Beckett's and maybe Chapel as well. But quite a frantic first lap, particularly for the midfield runners. And you can see on the left side of your screen as well, all the different classes that these drivers are parts of. The order basically goes purple, then green, then amber, orange, yellow, whatever. And then bottom is the red as well, which are currently none of them in the top 20. Drive through penalty for Specchio. That is a shame for Specchio, who I believe spun anyway. And Nathan Huppert's as well is into the pits. So, well, lots of changes. Huppert's was the one, I believe, who spun it going onto the Wellington Straight.
Yeah, it'll be an early stop for him, potentially get that damage out of the way, and that car will go back through. The guys do get a quick repair here, so that will help him out. But yeah, we'll see how he unfolds. Still going to have to come in later on, though. Don't forget, he will need to come back for one more stop later on to get a little bit of fuel in it. Julian Klimbersink going on pretty well, down a little bit, 3 spots from where he started. Recently jumped across to the Fusion Sim Racing team and finding his legs pretty well. We did see him with Superback Esports earlier in the championship, but he's closing right in on Specchio. But don't forget, Specchio's going to have to come in the lane for that stop and go.
Oh, we got Braden Nash off the track. Is he just ahead of these guys? No, he's just behind. There he is. He's lost him too many places. I think down about 5 places. There is Nash, only down 2 places from his race start. Strange to see Nash so far down. It must be a qualifying point because I recall him being much further. I think he won at Sebring. I've only done a couple of rounds of this championship so far this season, but whenever I've seen him, he's always been much higher up. This was how it happened. Oh, contact with the 383. That could have been San Filippo, perhaps? Oh, Jordan Cullis, in fact, we're being told, was the one involved in that one. So, and then Nash, to be fair, redressing that. So that's smart thinking from him.
Yeah, and he lost a huge amount of positions there because he was right on the back of Matt Morris just going into that incident. So he's going to have a lot of work for himself to do down in the 20th spot right now, or 24, sorry. So a long way for him to come back through. So we'll keep an eye on that. As it unfolds, still a long way left to go in this race. But up front, Luke Pink starting to come under a fair bit of attack. He's dropped a spot now with Josh Thomas getting through. He's got Danny Davison right on his rear bumper, and Adam Gardner also looking to come through now.
So yeah, Thomas up into third place a little bit, running wide there for Luke Pink in the Mach 1 Esports car. So I believe Anthony Wigman has won the last 2 rounds, has he?
Yeah, so he jumped in at Watkins Glen. He managed to get 2 wins. He did have a fantastic race, though, with Luke Pink, who we're riding on board with for his first time out with the Mach 1 Esports team. And we didn't see Luke last time out of Barcelona, but coming back very strong again. But yeah, can Winkleman get it done? He's with some tough competition, though, in the likes of Craig Edwards and Josh Thomas around him, however. But both Edwards and Winkleman now starting to break away from this little group.
So no further incident in that battle between Cullis and Nash. I imagine that is because Nash gave the position back to Cullis. So that's the that's part of the rules. That's a big part of the rules. I believe in quite a few of the Australian series, perhaps not so much in the European and American leagues, but it works pretty well where you kind of give up the time that's you kind of cost your rival. So that is certainly a good element to that. Means that we have a few less drive-throughs, of course. So certainly the top 2 pulling away, only on lap 3 of this race, moving on to lap 4. You can see that big gap between Winkleman and Thomas at the moment, 2.5 seconds. But then this long chain back to Kane Ryder. Also got to watch out for the off tracks as well. They do have, as we've got a spin around, that's Gardner. He spun it round. So he was in 6th place, started in 6th place. I think he was still running in 6th. That is a crucial mistake, and that's a mistake that I've seen a lot around that club corner, just losing the rear end. It seems to be very easy to do.
Yeah, and we're just going to jump for an onboard shot here just to get an idea of what happened. He thought about half sticking the nose up in towards Danny Davison there and just the rear rotating around on him. Lucky to not be collected by any of the cars passing through. He does a smart thing and just waits for everyone to filter their way back through. But he's going to drop a long way down the order as a result. I think he's also just come through the lane for his stop as well, so he's now thinking further ahead towards the finish of this race, and we'll keep a weather eye just to see how he goes working his way back up through, which we know everyone else is going to come through. And Matt Morris having a big lose there as well.
A lot of veterans of this series having issues already. Gardner and Cullis. Now Morris. What happened here? I just ran way too wide and didn't want to give up on the Dotzel. And that is the mistake it results in. So that's a shame there for Matt Morris.
Yeah, Morris though does have a lot of pace in that car, and I mean, he doesn't seem to always get the best qualifying result, which he did. Fantastic job out there tonight, but the racecraft for Morris very, very good. He'll definitely work his way back up over the course of this event. Josh Burden though coming under a little bit of attack. He's got Martin Crisp right in front of him, but right behind Martin Silvestri, Darren Lobb also getting involved in this four-way scrap.
Reminder that we could have some safety cars later on if drivers have to tow back to the pits. And they have to request a tow. And if they do tow, then they may well get a safety car with that, which will make a big difference to the strategy. So just keep that in mind when drivers do come into the pits. Might be best to leave it till a bit later on. A couple of drivers already coming in massively close with Josh Burden right now on the tail of the driver ahead. That is Martin Crisp. But Billy Fletcher has come into the pit. Oh, massive off for the Ferrari. That's Darren Lobb, who'd already had a spin, and I think he has hit the wall there. That was a high-speed impact, just overcorrecting the car for the final corner.
Yeah, and actually a little bit of contact with himself and Martin Silvestri. You can see Lobb going around the outside here, and I don't believe Martin would have done anything intent there, but just unfortunately catching Lobb on that outside, and as you say, making contact with that tyre barrier. So that car will be a little bit tore up, but has been able to get it back underway. It does drop a long way down the field, however.
Also got Chris Robinson off the track from one of the top positions. This was what happened to Rizzo, Trick Esports. And he's managed to pull off a very good move there on Chris Robinson. So nice work there. But yeah, big issues for, well, he was the Joe who dropped down.
Well, it was Darren Lobb just before, so well down the order. Now he actually finds himself behind Chris Robinson, still in that 30th position. And for any of the viewers out there who would like to check out where these drivers are currently sitting, there is a link to the SDK live timing there in the YouTube chat. Pull up the track map, see where all the drivers are, get a bit of an idea for how they're potentially playing out their strategies. Darren Lobb also coming through for actually no further issue there. He had that self-penalising and redress incident.
It's getting pretty dark. The session was meant to be set up as sunrise, apparently. It's sunset. Half of it's correct. Again, to be fair, it's very similar conditions, pretty much just the opposite. Don't really need to tell you any of that. I'm sure you have graduated nursery or kindergarten. But it's going to get pretty dark by the end of this week. How good is the track lighting, do we know, around this circuit, Daniel? Have you driven in the night round here?
No, I've never driven in the night around here. I mean, my only memories of that was one of the old Top Gear productions when they did the 24-hour race, and it looked pretty diabolical out there. But for these guys here, we did see it last week out at Barcelona. It got very, very dark towards the end of the race, and the guys managed to get along quite nicely. The lights on these cars very, very good also. So I don't think it'll be too much of an issue, especially with the drivers getting involved in some packs over the course of this one as well. That'll really throw a lot of light up. It's going to help them out. But I guess the big advantage you don't want to do is get dropped out of that group, find yourself well behind and having to run solo, because it'll be very similar to some of the times maybe when you go around Spa, for instance, around the middle portion of the circuit where it's very, very dark there. So the guys will get their way through, but we'll have to see how that unfolds. Gardner, however, closing up on the back of Matthew Barron, and these guys are scrapping down over the 21st position. Don't forget, Gardner had that spin earlier on, coming back up through the field for the Mark 1 Esports team now.
Love the neon lights within the Porsche and a couple of the other cars as well. Really does look quite spectacular in the night setting, because you can change what color light you have on the different cars. Not sure about the customizable on each of the cars, but I certainly know the Ford. You can have green, purple, or reds, I believe, as neon lights, which is absolutely epic. Really has been some nice elements added to these cars from iRacing right from the get-go when they're released. Of course, the Ferrari and the Ford, the first ones to release a couple of years ago. Adam Gardner has come into the pits then, so he's not waiting for a safety car. 12 minutes into this race, and I've already seen quite a few drivers come in. Billy Fletcher was another one who came in earlier on side by side through the final corner. We've seen that not work out too well so far today. It does lose you so much time. You've got to get out of the thoughts of both participants. And Matt Morris, like, trying to get past at the moment. Bales and takes a very tight line into this first hairpin. It's going to turn into the outside for the next one. Just see how the drivers behind her rapidly closing in on these drivers. Morris again trying to get the cutback, but I don't think that's going to happen. And Mike Compromises run onto the Wellington straight. And now they've got Chris Wood and San Filippo closing up to them big time there within a second now.
Yeah, Matt Morris really working hard. Goes around the outside here, so he's going to run a little bit wide. I thought he might have been able to pull that car up in time, but certainly throwing everything at it. He took a very narrow line as they went down the Wellington straight there, just to avoid that spin that we saw him take earlier on. But Mitchell Bales doing a really top job right now. He's holding on to that position, which is currently 19th, and not making it easy for the recovering Matt Morris to get through. Don't forget that you've got Paul Woods and Nick Sanfilippo working their way back up, and potentially could find themselves getting involved in this battle in the not too distant future as well.
Starting to flash the lights now is Morris. He's not best pleased. I must say, he's kind of gone for too many half moves. It doesn't matter how many half moves you make, it matters how many moves you make. So you may as well just kind of store it up and then go for one big attempt. And you can see, if anything, he's now falling away from his rival. And this is a proper four-car train again. It's one of the closest battles out on circuit at the moment. Oh, a nice battle between Martin Crisp and Josh Burden. Plenty of kind of decent opportunities to overtake around this place, but no proper obvious ones, I would say. Like, Stowe isn't a big braking area, especially in these high downforce GT cars. And kind of the same at the end of the Wellington Straight going into Brooklands. And of course, this hairpin as well can maybe go for a move occasionally. It is a bigger braking area, however, it's kind of tricky to make your move stick in the following hairpin. So it's a fantastic racer's circuit, as this train is building up. Chris with a 58.3 on that last lap. That's 9/10 of a second slower than the driver ahead. That's nearly 2 seconds slower than the race leader. So not particularly liking it at the moment out there.
No, just starting to struggle a little bit. Really surprised to also see just how much of a gap we're seeing now between our leading cars. Craig Edwards extending that gap to 3.8 seconds over Anthony Winkleman, and we're seeing Josh Thomas also now getting involved on the back of the Winkleman car there for Trick Esports. So struggling a little bit for him at that point, but must be said, Josh Thomas doing a fantastic job. Luke Pink hasn't let these two get away from him either. He's just hovering inside that top five, currently fourth, and if there is some contact later on, going to be a big beneficiary in that. Danny Davison also in that top five also. So the top five, generally a few regulars to what we've seen over the course of this championship season, and really going on very, very strong right now.
Great to see these drivers come back week after week. Such a strong community, of course, in this league. And these are properly experienced drivers always manage to find themselves at the front. So yeah, it must have just been one bad lap for Winkleman, because whenever I've looked down, he's been matching Edwards, and on that last lap he was only 1/10 of a second slower, so he must have had a really rubbish lap a few minutes ago. There he was, so lap 4, 5, 6, he must have made a mistake there, and has allowed that gap to open up. He lost about 3 seconds on that one tour of this Silverstone circuit. So he's got the pace at least to match the race here, but you can see apart from that, it's kind of just been creeping up anyway. So Winkleman's chances of getting through in the chop looking quite unlikely at the moment. And with Thomas and Pink also very close to him. I have to go back to that Crisp battle. Because I believe Crisp, was he always ahead? I think he was always ahead of Burden. But the battle for 13th is properly close. And you can see they're losing time as well to the driver ahead up to 3 seconds pretty much to Steve Janssen just ahead. But Burden doesn't seem to be able to find a way past at the moment.
No, and Martin Crisp's done a fantastic job. He's been a series regular there and knows his way around these cars very, very nicely. So using all advantages of the track. Josh, likewise, though, going to have to keep the eyes forward as much as possible, and at the same time have a quick look back to see Sean Stevens on the mirror as well, and right behind that as well, Martin Silvassi in there as well. So it's a really good fight here, and you can see some really interesting lines where these guys are flowing these cars down through the Maggots Beckett section and getting out onto that hangar straight again.
Yes, some real tight battling at the moment. Always great to see the drivers go through Maggots and Beckett as he goes down the inside. That is ambitious. It might work out for Josh Burden. That's not on this occasion. Chris stays ahead. Now Burden tries to get his way down the inside, but good covering off of that move right there from Martin Chris. A couple more drivers as well coming in behind. That was Silvassi and McCartan. Silvassi in particular was really close to those drivers. They might be able to pull off an undercut. We've seen about 5 drivers come in for normal stops in this race, as Paul Woods is now moving past in the 398 car.
Yeah, it's a nice run there for him up through turn 1 on Mitchell Bales. Gets that position done nicely. Little word of note too, Matt Morris, who we only saw a few laps ago, also battling quite strongly with Mitchell Bales. Since he's been able to break free, has extended quite a good little gap over those guys now, and he sets off after Sean Stevens ahead, who was in that little battle that we just saw before as well. So Morris recovering after that spin, but doing a pretty good job. The lap time is very consistent at the moment, although last lap he was a little bit slower. So all in all, not doing too bad. Probably would like to be a lot further up, but still plenty of time for him to get that done.
So Lee Vandenberg in 6th place. He's quite a bit of pressure from Kane Ryder at the moment. 3/10 of a second between these two. And Vandenberg not close enough going into Stowe corner across the right versus the BMW sets that they use for this championship. Of course, always managed by the organisers. Davison has come into the pits. Danny Davison from, I believe, 4th position. Was he 4th position? Maybe in 5th. He's opted to opt into the pits, and he's one of the first front runners to come into the pits. So feeling quite confident up there. This could be a strategy that maybe could promote him as high as 2nd place.
Yeah, well, if he's able to keep the tyre life under him, and obviously as this track cools down, rubbers up, the grip's gonna likewise come up for him as well. So plenty of opportunity to still push that car further. And while we did see some fantastic battling just ahead with Thomas, Pink and Winkelman starting to really heat up, that could give him the opportunity to jump if he can find himself a little bit of clear track on the way.
So currently top of the drivers who have come into the pits is Davison, then a 13.8 second pit stop. Damon Mulqueen is also coming out to the pits, so too is Paul Wood. Huppert's had to serve that drive through, so Huppert's has still got to come into the pits, despite the fact that it's showing him to have already come into the pits. Billy Fletcher is actually going to be 2nd place out of the drivers who have pitted, so that mega early stop for him, pitting on lap 4, has worked quite well. Specchio and Braden Nash also coming into the pits already. Silvastri was in 27th place now over. I think he'll be 5th out of the drivers who have pitted. So crazy the difference in pit stops. Usually there's some kind of consensus as to when to come into the pits, usually just beyond half distance, but today it's really anything. Everyone just wants to get a bit of clear track, it seems, and so to go for the randomist strategy seems to be the best way to go. Josh Burden is still yet surpassing Crisp. And I must say, if I was Bud, I'd come into the pits, to be honest. I mean, I don't know why he's staying out there, but, well, maybe he just wants to get one over Crisp as he's flashing lights again.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'd be looking to get the car in sooner rather than later. Try and relinquish yourself from this battle. Maybe look to get some clear track, and just on cue, Burden fires it in towards the pit lane. So easy as must have been burning, comes in, and we'll see how he unfolds. Adrian Vlock working his way up through the field, currently up 15 spots from where he started. So a good run for him, currently in the 21st position, closing in on Danny Davison. And Danny, we saw just having his pit stop a little earlier. So pretty good representation. Davison out of the 5th spot, returns down in 20th. So the drivers here losing a fair bit, but don't forget we've still got a long way to go, and plenty more drivers yet to come down the lane for their respective stops.
Just love seeing the Ford out there. The neon lights look so fantastic. I don't know if we could get maybe an onboard with the Ford from a few different angles, maybe from like the gearbox cam and the left rear cam and stuff like that, just to show it off. Because of course we're going up to Le Mans 24 Hours as well, but we're going to see a whole lot more of this, which is going to be fantastic. So that's coming in about a month, I believe, Le Mans 24 Hours. So certainly all the action will be on the iRacing Esports Network. Hopefully you've been tuning into the Nürburgring 24 Hours event. Thanks for starting that off though, and instead joining us. Hopefully you're enjoying the action. Look at that, just looks absolutely epic. I mean, too, I can understand now why we saw the chauffeur Ford staying up, because you just want to see the back of that Ford for the entire time. Now it's Martin Crisp who's in fact on the tail of Holden. So this is Crisp catching up to Holden, I believe. 21 places, Sam Holden as well. Great drive from the 727.
Yeah, really solid effort for him, and he's been coming on leaps and bounds over the coming weeks, or the past weeks as well. So really starting to get quite acclimatised to that car. Obviously, we did have a couple of setup changes across the field, which shook things up marginally, but Sam's been able to adapt really nicely to it. Positions are going up week in, week out, which is what you want to see, and starting to reap a lot of benefits for that. Currently, the first Ford currently sitting in 12th position, so just outside the top 10, but doing a very, very stellar job.
So Holden actually recently gets him past Crisp, so apologies that I didn't put that together. But yeah, so Holden up into 12th place, you can see on that lap. 1.4 seconds faster, and that included the overtake. So struggling a little bit at the moment is Crisp, but he's still ahead of Baron, at least. So not too bad for him. So a little bit of a recap actually at the front. So we got Craig Edwards leading the way, 3 seconds ahead of Anthony Wiggman. That gap maintaining. One poor lap for Winkleman where he lost about 3 seconds is the only difference between these two drivers. Otherwise, they'd undoubtedly still be nose to tail. Then it's Joshua Thomas in 3rd place, Luke Pink in 4th. Lee Vandenberg has got past Kane Ryder, I believe, for 5th. Or sorry, was always ahead. Apologies for that. In 5th place, and then it's Kane Ryder in 6th. Ross Rizzo in 7th. However, we also have had Danny Davison, who came into the pits from 5th position, I believe, earlier on. He's already pitted though. So he just did a 57.7 to Davison. That's 7/10 slower. That's even 1 second slower than Luke Pink. I'm quite skeptical of this stretch G for Danny Davison. He's got more fuel, you think. He hasn't got fresher tyres. And so it's understandable why he's slower. But the front runners are going so quick, I'm not sure if this stretch G is going to work for the EXG Motorsports Germany.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a troubling sign there for him. He takes a very shallow line on the run down the hanger straight there, which is only going to allow Adrian Vlock to close in a little bit more. So potentially trying to save the tyres just a fraction and come back into it, but it's really going to hurt him. And we might see whether we can pull up maybe a look at the track map just to get an idea where all these drivers are. But for where he's currently sitting, he's a long way down. I mean, we're just going through club now. Our race leaders all the way at the other end of the circuit down through Luffield. So we're over half a lap behind at this point. Yes, we've had the stop, but the pace just not quite there at the moment. He's got pretty good road right ahead of him. I'd be looking to try and make hay while the sun shines, but yeah, just struggling for whatever reason at this point.
So on that last lap, a 57.2, which is better, but that's still 4/10 slower than the drivers he was battling with. So, and that's kind of the pace you'd expect to lose from the extra fuel he's got on board. Maybe he's probably got, yeah, probably about, I'm not sure to be honest, maybe 20 liters more, something like that. Not quite sure how much fuel these drivers have in by default, because the fixed setup, so they can't change the amount of fuel that they put into the car. Here's Braden Nash, by the way, in 22nd place, has already been involved in a collision. Great first few corners for Nash, then proceeded to get involved in an issue at Luffield, I believe, had to readjust the position. He's in 22nd place, has pitted though, has Nash, although he's now slowing on the inside of the track, so he's down to 24th now. Is Braden Nash, has lost out to Luthwaite and Silvassi, as into the pits comes the race leader. Craig Edwards is into the pits. Josh Thomas and Luke Pink and Lee Vandenberg and Kane Ryder all into the pits as well. You can see that on your timing tower. So Winkleman is now into the lead of this race. Ross Rizzo has also stayed out, but pretty much everyone coming into the pits. I wonder if this is the limit of the fuel that is in these setups.
Yeah, it'll be getting pretty close to for these cars. I think now's probably a really good opportunity for both Winkleman and Ross Rizzo to punch in some really quick laps if they've got the ability to, while the other guys are in the pit stops now. So we just see Edwards coming back out. So it's about 16 seconds there total for Edwards at this point that he's dropped behind Winkleman as a result of that stop. So we'll see how that unfolds for him. But yeah, Winkleman setting some pretty good lap times at the moment. They're not quite as quick as his personal best at this point, but definitely trying to cut some inroads into that gap advantage that he'd forfeited towards Edwards there.
Yeah, if he can have a good lap, then he could close that gap. Edwards, yeah, in traffic at the moment. So the gap was 3 seconds. Edwards' pit stop, though, was really quick. 11.6 seconds. That's one of the quickest pit stops we've seen. So, don't quite know how he's managed to do that, Edwards, because he was punching a hole in the air for the entire first stint. That's very impressive, but needs to get past right now before the Magnussen Beckett section, because he cannot overtake. And, well, it's often an issue through this Copse corner that the run down into Magnussen Beckett just isn't long enough, really isn't an overtaking area. Kind of reminds me a little bit of a Rouge, where there's absolutely no chance of you overtaking whatsoever, as they slalom their way through once again for the 15th time in this race. And crucial tenths of a second being lost right now for Craig Edwards. He should maintain lead as Anthony Winkleman does come into the pits. Ross Rizzo as well, finally opting into the pit stop, as finally Edwards will get past. But, well, yeah, like I said, 3 seconds the gap was. I think it might be below 2 seconds now.
Yeah, it's going to be a really extended gap at this point. Both those cars trundling down the lane. Winkleman's just hit the box now, so let's watch here as we see Craig Edwards now fires through the final corner, comes across the start-finish line to start lap 16. Winkleman's still stationary at this point and just gets underway. I think that gap's going to probably be very similar to about that 3 second range that we saw just before.
Yeah, so it's now 2.4, I'm saying on the timing screen, 2.5. It was a longer pit stop though for Winkleman. He was stationary for 8 tenths of a second longer, which is strange because he had a little bit of a slipstream, only for the first kind of 3 laps or so. He did have a bit more of a slipstream and managed to go further in that stint, so maybe taking a bit more fuel. Maybe Edwards has taken too little fuel, I don't know. Maybe he's going to have to fuel save a little bit later on. The gap's 2.5 seconds, so it has come down a little bit. Winkleman's going to have to drive superbly if he's going to get another race victory. Berg versus Rizzo is currently going on, and Rizzo is defending this position, I believe. But Berg is back down the inside. This is for 5th position. Rizzo will hang it round and should have a better run through Woodcote. Can he get far enough ahead though into Copse Corner to maintain this position? Now should be able to pull slightly ahead, the gap up to half a tenth of a second, and he has got the edge, does Ross Rizzo. This stretch worked great for Rizzo. I swear he was down in 10th place earlier on, but came into the pits really early. And apologies, no, he actually stayed out for a while, did Rizzo. He stayed out till the last lap, as Vandenberg actually loses out to Davison now. He's down into 7th place.
Well, yeah, I was just going to comment on Danny Davison because we were almost writing him off a little bit with the pace that he had when he came out of the pit stop there, but finds himself back up at that familiar sixth position for him. He's got Ross Rizzo right ahead, and with the draft that he's going to get down here as they work their way down towards Stoke Corner, potential to set up for a move down through that club section as well. And we've seen quite a few moves go down there already, and if anything, I reckon that's probably the best spot short of the turn 2 hairpin to get a move done here, and Davison just not close enough at this point, but looking to start setting something up.
Oh, here he goes. 9 to the last corner. I think Davison actually came up behind Thomas in 9th place, but I think because those tyres are warmed up on this really cold surface, and anyone who's driven on the new tyre model knows how tricky it is to get heat into these tyres. I think he's just been so much quicker. It's as though he's got grip, and whilst everyone else is driving on ice, his tyres are to the perfect temperature. If that is the case, he's got to make his advantage pay right now and get back past Rizzo, who he was ahead earlier on, of course. Rizzo up 7 places from his start, so he just stayed out for absolutely ages. Had a very quick pit stop as well, 11.2 seconds. That's 2.6 seconds faster than Davison with such a close battle. 2.6 seconds is an absolute gulf of time. Davison, though, not getting past Rizzo, showing that all those years of experience. Done so many races that I've seen him take part in sim races Asia as well. I recall him saying a few years ago, and first few of my commentaries I ever did. That was about 3 years ago, and no, was always very competitive in that as well. And of course, has become a mainstay in this championship. His racecraft certainly helping him out right now. Sam Holden a little bit slow. He's in 22nd place, and we're about to find out that he's had a bit of a spin.
Yeah, it looks like on the run down through Woodcote there, the back end of that Ford just stepping out as we were focusing on the battle further ahead. Able to get going pretty easily, no damage on that car, or almost loses the front end on the re-entry as well. So that was a little unfortunate there with Matthew Barron. I don't think there was contact between either car, but came extremely close to potentially putting 2 cars out there. But as we turn back up towards the front, Martin Silvassi getting in on the back of Aaron Spezia, Aiden Lithwaite, Braden Nash still haven't let go of each other, and that's fire's been really starting to boil on for the last 4 laps now.
Yeah, this has been a close one with Specchio still leading this train. It was pretty early in the pits as well with Specchio. And that 4 he came into the pits. Be Fletcher as well, just in front of him. Fletcher's in 24th place, but 11 places now. So those early stops, they seem to have worked well. We see how they won't work out later on. But at this point, though, they really are benefiting from those warmed up tyres. Danny Davison, then, has he made a mistake? I think he may have got ahead of Kane Ryder, but now he's lost that place. Oh, went down the inside! Oh dear. And he went down the inside of Rizzo, and they've both lost out from that. Rizzo down into 8th place, and Davison down into 6th. And he hasn't redressed that position either, so... Do you reckon that's going to warrant a penalty?
I think it'll definitely get the eye of the stewards there, because it did look like a pretty late dive from Davison there, and just as we speak of that one, he does get a drive-through penalty for that contact there. So the big beneficiary, as you say, Kane Ryder, picking up both those spots as a result of that. But yeah, Rizzo had a fairly good run up into turn 2 there. Davison either missed the braking mark or a little bit of a pedal failure there, just came right through. Did get the car up the inside, however, basically forced the issue through with Rizzo, and we'll now see him come back through. But Lee Vandenberg's probably going to be quite happy here. He will now be able to get underway and back after Kane Ryder as we see Danny Davison come through.
Oh, this is painful for Davison. It really is. And you wonder, well, you wonder, it's no question, it would have been better just to readjust the position. Would have been better just to slow down. Sure, he wouldn't have got a penalty if he had slowed down, but then at the same time, of course, you don't want to do that unnecessarily and then say, oh, it was a racing incident after all anyway. It would have been a bit of a waste of time, but of course, he would have lost 2 places if he did that. Instead, he's going to lose about 10 as he charges down the pit lane. To cut, of course, the final kind of complex of corners, but I believe the pit lane speed around here is particularly slow, with it being a very narrow pit lane and just so that you don't gain an advantage going down the pit lane as well. So we'll drop way down now. Means that, yeah, Kane rises up into 5th place then. Lee Vandenberg is up into 6th, Ross Rizzo in 7th, and Trent Thomas in 8th. Dyson and Case Boosing also gain a place coming out of the pits. Davison in 16th place, so yeah, he lost about 10 places from that incident overall.
And we're just focusing on Stefan McCartan. And I must say, haven't seen him racing before, but absolutely loving the livery on that BMW down in the 23rd spot. So up 9 from where he started, which is a pretty good run, must be said all in all. But yeah, probably one of the nicest new liveries out there. We see Chris Pallett going around the outside of Martin Crisp, and then right in behind that, Paul Wood closing back in the BMW. So good little scrap for these three. Keeping an eye on our front two battle though, Winkelmann starting to close in on Edwards, the gap down to 1.3 seconds. So Winkelmann so far taken nearly a second after his pit stop out of our race leader, and we'll see how that continues on.
Fast up the race for Edwards. Oh, that's I'll say it wasn't fast lap. I'm just colourblind. 57.15, but Winkelmann with a 59.5. Dear me. 2.4 seconds lost. So you think he lost 3 seconds in that one lap earlier on, and now he's lost 2 seconds on that lap. It's 5 seconds, and he's 3.5 seconds behind. Could have definitely won this race, Winkelmann, and hopefully we'll get an interview with him later on just to see what he thought about those couple of areas. I imagine he probably hasn't even made them in practice, but just pushing that hard, and there's a couple of costly mistakes. So you're absolutely right. Josh Thomas now closing up to within 3/4 of a second. Match the race leader in that last lap, Luke Pink, as well. Very close, and certainly Winkelmann cannot afford another one of those mistakes. Otherwise, he is probably going to lose a place in a little while. So that battle with Specchio, by the way, still going on. Seems like some of these drivers, we saw it earlier on, I can't recall who it was earlier on. Oh dear, Specchio has got some connection issues. You can see him falling down the timing tower. Does he reappear? Aha, so Specchio hasn't served a penalty, and he's been disqualified. That's a bit of a complicated discuss, although I feel like that was totally Aaron's fault, to be honest. Has deserved a penalty, and he's been disqualified. Well, that's a shame, because like I said, that was a pretty epic battle. We've still got the battle between Luthwaite, Nash, and Davison still.
Yeah, really unfortunate for him there, but definitely we'll be looking forward to next week. Braden Nash closing back in on his teammate, Aidan Lithwaite. So these two earlier in the season making the move from RSR Esports across to Synergy Sim Racing, and been pretty fruitful for him early on in the race, and just struggling a little bit tonight with BMW on the circuit, which is not what we would have expected from these two. They're very, very quick drivers in their own right, but working their way through. Danny Davison back in this fight also, and he's a long way down. Well, we only saw him not that long ago up in that 6th position. So after his penalty there, he finds himself back now in that 15th position, and a lot of work left to do with less than 5 minutes now on the clock.
He's been quite patient so far behind these guys. He's been, sure he is a bit quicker. On that last lap was 3/10 faster, Davison, so he's kind of yet to properly get involved in this battle. I wonder if he will just stay behind a little bit longer and see if they have an instant between themselves. Are they teammates just ahead? They are teammates just ahead, so I doubt there will be an instant, so Davison's got to get it done himself.
Yeah, certainly not going to be an easy run. Paul Wood doing a great job, though, on the back of Chris Pallett there now.
Crisp at the head of this. And yeah, Pallett, Wood, Barron, who's been involved in a few battles today. Well, he seems to be right behind Joe, as does Barron. He was cooped up behind someone else earlier on. This was McCartson then. Or big slide and spinning round.
Yeah, grabbing the rear brakes on the run into turn 2 there, not able to pull that car up, and unfortunately does drop down the order. Rejoined though back in 26, so lost 4 spots as a result of that. A lot of work for him to do, but that was a nice one for the boys just up ahead to get through. So Martin Crisp now going to go very, very defensive. We saw him having a really strong battle early on with Ross Rizzo, making it very, very hard for him to get through, but Chris, not one of the easiest competitors in the field to get a move done on, and it's going to be really interesting to see how both Pallet and Wood play it.
Further up, Holden versus Delaney. And I believe Holden has got past there. In fact, he is defending from Delaney. As you're going in deep into Vale and Club. I have no idea what the difference between Vale and Club is. I don't know if Vale's like the first bit and then Club is the second bit. I think that's the case. But just use them interchangeably, to be honest. You kind of get the point, that corner. Holden, then, yeah, good defending from him. And Mulqueen is catching up to these guys. Then you've got that 5.5 second gap back to Crisp and Pellets and Co. There's Damon Mulqueen. As Pellet has actually dropped behind a couple of drivers suddenly. There he is, down into 24th. I believe he's just lost out to both Wood and Barron. He's into 4th in this chain now. That's how it happened going into turn 1. Looks as though may have been a mistake from him. Wood just sitting behind. Oh, that's a weird one there for Pellet. Think you should pick up that slowdown?
No, that's a very odd one to lose the back end. It's almost like either just grabbed a brake and early rotated through there. He will get that slowdown, as you say, but very weird rotation for that car, especially on where that corner is quite flowing in nature. You wouldn't normally expect that to happen. Still keep an eye here. Litherwaite, Nash and Davison scrapping down over 13th position. The 3 BMWs. So the lap times for these guys pretty well on par at the moment with what we're seeing for our race leaders, but a long way down the order. And for all our drivers to get a really good understanding of who's probably got what in as far as the best tanks and fuel on board at the moment. You see our 2 former race runner-up or leaders, Winkelman and Rizzo, the only 2 out of that top 10 to have pitted 7 laps ago. Everyone else with a really interesting spread of stops. And Nathan Happets, we saw him come in lap 1 for his pit stop, yet to come back down the lane again. So trying a very unique strategy, which we actually saw some run to good effect last season as well with a few of the drivers out there. Most notably some of the guys from Mark 1 Esports having a really good one, actually using it quite effectively as well. So see how that unfolds for him, but yeah, long way down at this point.
Did Hupperts not get a drive through penalty earlier on? I thought that was why he came into the pits.
Yeah, look, I thought it might have been some actual damage, because we did have a few cars get caught up early on in the piece for that. So I don't think it was necessarily a drive-through for him, but yeah, working his way back up. See, Jesse Butler's going to get a drive-through added post-race, which we're now working our final lap. So he'll come in through post-race to get that done, and we'll be able to bring that to you next week. But as the guys run here down through Stowe for the final time, you can see Craig Edwards coming across. Winkelman closing that gap well down now, 1.3 seconds. What could have been for him if he didn't have that spin?
Absolutely. So yeah, that gap coming down. Edwards, though, has absolutely nailed this one. He got pole position by a small margin, and he's been leading by a small margin throughout. No mistakes, though. And Craig Edwards for Fusion Sim Racing wins at Silverstone in the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Championship. Winkelman, what could have been for him, but it's still another good points haul for him in second place. Thomas, a very competitive third, finishing only 2 seconds off the lead in the end, and top of the pro drivers. Pink will be top of the amateur drivers. So congratulations to him. And of course, Edwards top of the elites. Here is the battle for 19th place. Then Delaney Sorry, this is Holden, I believe, defending from Delaney, and Holden has been defending superbly. We've seen some brilliant defensive driving today, and just more of it there from Holden to hang on to 18th place, beating Mole Queen there. Burden, who had another issue, I believe, right at the end of this race. Looks like he's going to finish in 32nd place. That is 6 places down from his start, and a frustrating day. Whilst his teammate takes the race win, he is going to be far away from that and behind another one of his teammates as well, in the form of Brett Hender. Because Jesse Butler, with a post-race penalty, might not cost him too much time. They third place for Butler, but he was the last driver on the lead lap. So even if they give him like a 3-minute penalty, he's still done that amount of laps. So I'm not quite sure what these stewards will do. That might well be a grid penalty potentially for the next round of the championship. As I believe we can take you through your final. In fact, we can't take you through your final results just yet, as the session takes over. But I guess today it was a matter of mistakes, wasn't it? Edwards, we didn't see him miss an apex. Wasn't necessarily the fastest driver out there, but when you got track position, when you're not making mistakes as he was, you're very tough to beat.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Edwards really put all the right feet forward and come home with the win. I think he was probably very, very low on fuel, judging by how quick that gap between himself and Winkelmann finished out. But he run that race really nicely. Didn't give up the track position where it wasn't needed, and was able to withstand the charge that Winkelmann put on him in those opening few laps.
Absolutely. Held on in those early few laps, and then once that first mistake came from Winkelmann, it became a little bit more comfortable for him. Just had to set those strong lap times and managed to maintain that gap throughout. So here are the finishes then, and the results from this round of season 11 of the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Championship. Craig Edwards wins out 1 seconds clear of Anthony Winkelmann. However, it was up to, as pretty much 3.5 seconds at some points. Winkelmann there with probably about 5 seconds worth of mistakes. Maybe could have won, but still, like I said, I mean, we're saying they didn't, they made some mistakes. Second place is still really good for him. Josh Thomas from Fishing Motorsports finishing in third place. There was Luke Pink, those two top of their respective classes. Then it was Kane Ryder, who benefited from a little bit of an incident between a couple of the drivers ahead of him in the closing stage. Lee Vandenberg was in sixth. Then it was Trent Thomas, Andrew Dyson, Ross Rizzo. What could have been for him, running as high as 5th place at one point. Julian Clean Boosink, good drive from him up the order in 10th. Then it was Nathan Huppert with that lap 1 pit stop, finishing in 11th. Billy Fletcher in 12th. Then it was Aidan Luthwaite, Braden Nash, Danny Davison, Adam Gardner, Steve Janssen. Sam Holden was in 18th place. You can see about 48 seconds behind. Then it was Damon Mulqueen, Paul Wood, Martin Crisp, Matthew Barron, Richard Hunter, Chris Pellett, Stephen McCartan, Adrian Vlock, Sean Stevens in 28th, Michael Bales, Nick Sanfilippo, Brett Hender, Joshua Burden, Jesse Butler, Martin Silvassi, Matt Morris, Aaron Specchio, Darren Lobb, Jordan Cullis, those last couple as well, getting not finishing the race, and Chris Robinson was in 39th place. No rookie drivers. We had a lot of entries for this round of the championship. I can only imagine none of the rookies got into the top split, which is a bit of a shame, but at the same time shows how the organisers done a very good job at dividing these drivers up. That the rookies are pretty far near the back of the field. Sure, of course, there was a whole split too as well going on, showing that we couldn't bring you action from that, but so much more action than meets the eye in this series. And soon we are going to get a couple of interviews with drivers. So first up, we're going to have a chat with our race winner today, Craig Edwards. Congratulations, Craig. First question: how's the fuel at the end? Because we saw you have a pretty short pit stop. Were you pretty close to the maximum there?
Hi, Sam. No, I was actually fine on fuel. I was struggling extremely badly on tyres, however. after the pit stop, my pace was just falling away and away, and I was watching the two boys behind me just reeling me in. And then, that second slowdown that Anthony got probably saved my bacon, so I'm quite happy to be here on the winner's podium tonight.
What were your emotions when you saw Anthony make those couple of mistakes? We saw a mistake, I think, on lap 4, and then, like you said, that slowdown as well in the second half of the race. I mean, what do you think when something like that happens and the gap extends a bit?
Well, it's never a bad thing if you're watching the guy behind fall off you. So, in the first stint, it was just a bit of extra determination, but in the last stint, it was a big sigh of relief because I was feeling quite a bit of pressure at that.
And I mean, how did you find this Silverstone circuit? Would you say the Ferrari kind of suits this place particularly well, or do you think it's just one of the circuits that you're particularly good around?
I think there's a little bit of both. The Ferrari clearly has some peak pace to be had here at this circuit, though. But I'm not sure it hangs on to its tyres quite as good as the BMW. Anthony and Josh Thomas were reeling me in quite heavily there at the end of the race.
And next up, we've got the Enduros. I mean, if there's some issues with the tyres, going to certainly come up in that endurance meeting. How confident are you feeling about that?
Yeah, I'll have to see. I've had a pretty good run in the Enduro so far this season, though, so hopefully I can continue that. We'll see how we go.
Absolutely. Well, best of luck for that one, Craig. Before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to thank?
Oh, absolutely. Big thanks to Fusion Sim Racing, my team, and our sponsors, Dripping Paint Graphics, Eclipse Signage, and Darryl Carter Plastering.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having a chat with us, Craig, and best of luck for next week.
Thanks very much.
So that was your race winner, Craig Edwards there. Daniel, I believe we've got Anthony Winkleman in for a chat.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Anthony, mate, second place tonight. Bit of a tough one out there for you tonight. We're hoping both Sam and I could have gone the three-peat, but a couple of issues along the way put a bit of spoils on that one for you.
Yeah, still bashing my head against the wall, mate. It was two brutal 3-second slowdowns, but car was good. Again, the Ferrari tyres seemed to have fallen off pretty bad from looking at the lap time. So, yeah, a couple more laps I would have got it, but take away a slowdown, I probably would have got it too. But kudos to Craig. He drove a great race, nice and solid, and he did really well.
No, still great run for both yourself and again, good points on the board for the championship too. Both we noted both yourself and Ross running very late in on the stints. Was that always a planned strategy going forward?
Well, same thing again. I got to save a bit of fuel behind Craig earlier on in the piece. Though I did chew up a lot of front tyre, so it was sort of an easy out to save the fuel as opposed to try and challenge for the lead. So I opted to do that. It got me a little bit of time up, probably a half a second, I think, but the lap that they all pitted was my horror lap too, so that didn't help either. But yeah, something we're always managing to do is be decent on fuel, so it will pay off eventually, I'm sure, if I don't get any more slowdowns.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then next week we go from the flowing nature of Silverstone off to Mid Ohio, completely different style of circuit. What are your thoughts on that track, and how do you think the BMW is potentially going to go around?
It's going to be a handful. It's going to be a very interesting race. There's no room for error, no room for passing. There's no room for anything. So qualifying is going to be crucial. Craig seems to do really well in qualifying. So we all love Mid Ohio. So could expect to see us really put in some effort and get some practice underneath our belt. But we're looking forward to it. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely, mate. We're definitely looking forward to seeing what yourself and the Trick Esport team can do going off to Mid Ohio. But before we let you go and enjoy second place and wonder what could have been afterwards, was there anyone you'd like to give a shout out and thanks to?
Yeah, big shout out to you guys for the broadcast for sure, and Ryan and crew for hosting the series, and also our sponsors. We've got Hybrid Racing Simulations, Momo Australia, and Fuel Autotech, alongside with Trick Custom Fabrications.
Fantastic, mate. Well, again, apologies that it didn't work out the best of night for you tonight, but still second place, a fantastic run, and definitely look forward to seeing yourself and the boys out for next week at Mid-Ohio.
Yeah, looking forward to it, boys. Thanks very much.
So that was Anthony Winkleman then, your second place finisher for Trick Esports. One more interview, we're going to have a chat with third place man, Josh Thomas. Congratulations, Joshua. Third position. You were pretty rapid though. By the end of that race, you must have been thinking a couple more laps and maybe you could have fought for the win.
Oh, look, the boys that were ahead of me were very quick, and I think it was Anthony ahead who had a few slowdowns. He kept teasing me, and I thought, oh God, I'm on here, but no, they were both just too quick. So I'm pretty happy with where I ended up.
In the opening stages, we saw you fighting pretty hard for third position. You managed to get up into third place pretty soon past Luke Pink. How did you find that battle?
I was following Luke. He was quick in qualifying, but he made a mistake, I think, going into turn 4 or 5, and I was just in a lucky enough position to get on the inside of him and get a better run. So there was no initial move by me. Like I said, he made an error, and I was just lucky enough to swoop in.
We've got 5 more rounds of the championship remaining. Where do you sit in the championship, and kind of what aims do you have for the rest of the season?
Championship-wise, I'm not too sure. I'm not near the front. I joined a bit late, but I've been having some good qualifying results. My races have let me down a little, but I think just to keep consistent and finish towards the front end would be the main goal. But apart from that, I think I had a good night tonight, so it was good.
Next up, we head to Mid-Ohio. Not necessarily a circuit that we visit that much. When was the last time you visited there? Do you particularly enjoy it?
I've got to buy Mid-Ohio right now. I've never done a lap around that place, and I would not have a clue of the track map. So that's where I stand with it.
Well, I absolutely love that place. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it a lot. And next up as well, the enduro. I mean, do you look forward to the enduros more than the sprints, or the other way around?
I enjoy the sprint races. They're good. The endurance ones are just more time to be nervous and make mistakes. So I like getting it over and done with pretty quick. But either way, it's going to be a bit of fun. This series is always good. So yeah, it'll be good fun.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having a chat with us, Joshua. Before I let you go, is there any shout-outs you'd like to give to anyone?
Just to all the Fishy Motorsport team. They're an awesome group of boys, and they look after me real well. And to all the fellas racing and all race control tonight, it was good fun, and yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having a chat with us, and best of luck for next week.
Thanks heaps, guys.
So that was Joshua Thomas finishing in third place today. Congrats to him. So next week then, Daniel. Yep, going to Mid-Ohio for the next endurance round of the championship. Like I said earlier on, I really like that saying. I kind of think of it as the Hungaroring of North America. A lot of kind of tight, twisty corners, not necessarily easy to overtake either. And yeah, it's going to be a unique challenge. Anyone who's got a little bit of extra experience over anyone else could prove quite important, because we don't visit there too much.
Yeah, definitely. I think I really enjoy it myself. I find it a really good, challenging circuit. It looks simple when you look at it on a track map. You know, you got the famous keyhole and the kink down into turn 4, but you get that fantastic run down through basically the exit of turn 6 all the way up through 9 before you crest the brow through Thunder Valley. And I mean, these cars are going to work really nicely through that little section. It's a little bit of looseness in the rear as the guys crest Thunder Valley, but working around for passing opportunity is going to be really key there. And I'm already looking at a couple of really key spots where we're going to see him down into the keyhole, likewise down to turn 4. But yeah, we saw some great passing from the guys out there tonight, especially around that Club Vale section. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a few guys trying some really unique positions to get a passing move completed and look to promote themselves back up. But thoroughly looking forward to getting back in towards the 90 minutes enduros, and we've seen some great racing over the past. I don't expect next week to be any different from that.
Absolutely, should be superb. Next week then on the iRacing Esports Network, and of course on Apex Racing TV as well. So certainly do like this video if you've enjoyed it. We would mega appreciate that. And also subscribe to the Esports Network. There's the Nurburgring 24 hours going on at the moment. So tune into that. You want to see the finish. We've had some fantastic finishes in that event, I believe, in the past. So certainly to check that one out. I believe it finishes in a couple of hours. And of course, there's loads of other stuff coming up on the Esports Network. Lots of stuff featuring real-world drivers as well. So check that one out, and certainly do check out as well, in particular, the Apex Racing League Touring Car Championship on Thursday evening. That is going to be a fantastic one, I'm sure. And if you wouldn't mind, please do check out Apex Racing TV as well, where we do many more broadcasts just like this, American stuff, Australian stuff, a lot of European stuff as well, so certainly do give that a look as well. But for now, from me, from Daniel, and from Scott, we're going to say goodbye, and we'll see you next time.